I still wake up sometimes, my heart pounding, the clock glowing 2 a.m. like a warning light. That night, that night changed everything. It was the kind of darkness that presses in on you, thick and unyielding, where every shadow hides a secret you're not ready to face. I was alone in my small apartment, the one I'd carved out for myself after years of trying to hold our family together. Me, Emily, 32, a quiet graphic designer by day, but at night, just a daughter and a sister clinging to the threads of love that felt more like chains. My sister Lily. She was my everything. 2 years younger than me, with that bright laugh that could light up the stormiest room. But life had been unkind to her. A car accident when she was 18 left her in a wheelchair, her legs stolen from her in an instant. She never complained, though. Never. Lily turned her pain into art, painting these wild, colorful worlds on canvas, dreams she could still chase with her hands and her heart. We were close, inseparable, even after she moved into her own place a few towns over. I'd drive to see her every weekend, bringing coffee and stories because that's what sisters do. We protect each other, and Mom, she was the anchor, or so I thought. Strong-willed, with that sharp tongue that could cut through any argument. She'd raised us alone after Dad left when we were kids, working double shifts at the factory to keep a roof over our heads. I admired her for it, looked up to her like she was unbreakable. But there was always this distance with Lily. A coldness I chalked up to worry, to the exhaustion of watching her daughter struggle. She's fine, I'd tell myself when Mom skipped visits or made excuses. She's just tired, but deep down I knew it was more. Whispers of resentment, like cracks in the foundation of our home. That rainy October night, the storm had been raging for hours. Thunder rolled like distant anger, and the wind howled against my windows. I was curled up on the couch, half asleep with a book in my lap, when my phone buzzed. Not a call, a text from Lily. Em? Can you come? Feeling off? Doors unlocked, my stomach twisted. She lived 30 minutes away, but in that weather? I grabbed my keys without a second thought, pulling on my raincoat as lightning cracked the sky. The drive was a blur of wipers slapping rain and my heart racing ahead of me. Why hadn't she called? Was it her chair, a fall? By the time I pulled up to her little bungalow, soaked to the bone, fear had me in its grip. The porch light flickered weakly, and there she was. Lily crumpled on the wet concrete just outside her front door, her wheelchair tipped over beside her like a fallen soldier. Rain poured over her, mixing with... Was that blood? From a cut on her head? She wasn't moving. Just lying there, so small and still in the downpour. Lily? My scream tore from my throat as I dropped to my knees beside her, my hands shaking as I touched her face. Cold. Too cold. Lily, wake up! It's me, Em, please. No response. Her chest rose faintly. Thank God she was breathing. But her eyes stayed closed, her body limp. Panic clawed at me. I fumbled for my phone, fingers slipping on the screen. 911. I had to call 911, but then another buzz. My phone lit up in my hand. A text from Mom. I almost dropped it. Mom, how did she even know? I glanced at the screen, my thumb hovering over the emergency button. The message read, "Don't save that cripple." Let her go, the world tilted. Let her go? My breath caught, sharp and painful like glass in my lungs. Cripple. That word. Mom had never said it out loud, not to me. But there it was, ugly and raw, splashed across my screen in the glow of the storm. Rain stung my eyes, or maybe it was tears. How could she? My mom, the woman who'd bandaged my scraped knees and sung us lullabies, typing those words about her own daughter. About Lily, who needed her more than ever. I stared at Lily's pale face, the rain washing away the dirt from her cheek. Her lips were turning blue. Every second stretched into eternity. Mom, what have you done? I whispered to the night, my voice breaking. But I couldn't let go. Not of Lily, not like this. With trembling hands, I hit the call button. 911, what's your emergency? The operator's calm voice cut through the chaos. Ma'am? Talk to me. I choked out the address, the details. Fall, unresponsive, possible head injury. Sirens were promised, help was coming. But as I cradled Lily's head in my lap, shielding her from the rain, Mom's text burned in my mind. Don't save her. Why? What darkness had I missed in our family? What betrayal had been hiding behind those forced smiles? That call. It was the first crack in everything I thought I knew. As the ambulance lights pierced the night, painting the rain in red and blue, Paramedics swarmed us. They lifted Lily gently onto a stretcher, her wheelchair forgotten in the mud. I rode with her, holding her hand the whole way, whispering promises I wasn't sure I could keep. "You're going to be okay, Lil. I'm here. Always." The hospital was a whirlwind. Doctors, beeps, questions I answered on autopilot. Concussion, hypothermia, a fractured wrist from the fall. She'd slipped trying to get inside during the storm, her chair catching on the uneven step. Nothing life-threatening, they said. But she wouldn't wake up fully until morning. I sat by her bed as dawn crept in, gray light filtering through the blinds. Mom's text echoed like a ghost. I hadn't replied. Couldn't, but exhaustion won, and I dozed off only to jolt awake at another buzz. Another text. "Did you call?" "I told you not to." Rage bubbled up then, hot and unfamiliar. I typed back, fingers flying. "Why? Why would you say that?" Minutes ticked by. Then, "She's not worth it, Em, never was. Save your heart for someone who can stand on their own. Stand on their own." The words hit like a slap. I remembered it all rushing back then. The pieces I'd ignored for years. Mom's bitterness starting after the accident. How she'd stopped visiting Lily in the hospital, claiming work. The way she'd sigh when Lily called, muttering about burdens when she thought I wasn't listening. And the fights, quiet at first, then sharper. "Why can't you just get better?" Mom had snapped once over dinner. Lily had laughed it off, but her eyes, they dimmed. It wasn't just resentment. It was deeper, uglier. A secret Mom had buried, one that poisoned everything. I slipped out of the room, finding a quiet corner in the hallway. Dialing her number, I braced myself. She picked up on the second ring, her voice crisp, like nothing had happened. "Emily, is she—" "Alive," I said, my voice steady even as my chest ached. "Because I ignored you." Silence. Then a sigh, long and weary. "You shouldn't have. It would have been kinder." "Kinder?" The word exploded from me, echoing down the empty hall. "To let her die?" "Mom, what is wrong with you?" She hesitated, and in that pause the floodgates opened. "You don't understand, Em. That accident, it wasn't just bad luck." Her voice dropped, laced with something like shame. "I was driving that night. Me. I was distracted, arguing with your father on the phone before he left for good." I swerved, hit the guardrail. Lily was in the passenger seat. It was my fault. The confession hung there, heavy as the hospital air. My knees buckled. I slid down the wall, phone pressed to my ear. You never told us." "All these years? Because I couldn't face it," she whispered. The guilt. It ate me alive. And Lily, she forgave me too easily. Acted like it was nothing, like she could just paint her way out of it. But every time I saw that chair, it was a reminder. A punishment. She became this symbol of my failure. I hated her for it. Hated what she made me see in myself. Betrayal doesn't always come with a knife. Sometimes it's a slow poison, dripping into your veins until your heart stops recognizing love. I thought of all the times I'd defended Mom to Lily, smoothing over the silences, the absences. "She's just stressed," I'd say. Lily would nod, her smile brittle, but she'd squeeze my hand. "I know you love her, Em. That's enough." And it wasn't. It never had been. Mom's guilt had twisted into resentment, into that cruel text at 2 a.m., a desperate plea to end the pain she couldn't escape. Tears streamed down my face as nurses passed, oblivious. "You let it destroy us," I said finally, my voice cracking. "You let it destroy her. And me? I've been carrying your lies, pretending we were okay." "I'm sorry," she murmured. But it sounded hollow, like an echo from someone I didn't know anymore. "But saving her, it just drags it out." "No." I stood then, wiping my eyes, a fire kindling in the ruins of my hurt. "It ends it. For good." I hung up, my hands shaking, but not from fear. From resolve. Lily was waking up. I could hear the monitors beeping softer now. I had to tell her. Not everything, not yet. But enough to start healing. And Mom? Oh, she'd face this. Not with anger, but with truth. The kind that exposes the shadows and lets the light in. That shift inside me. It was like waking from a long, bad dream. Broken, yes. Shattered by the woman who'd shaped me. But in the pieces, I found strength I didn't know I had. For Lily. For the sister who'd never stopped believing in family, even when it hurt. I wouldn't let Mom's darkness win. Not anymore. The days that followed were a storm of their own. Quieter, but no less fierce. Lily recovered slowly, her wrist in a cast, bruises fading like old regrets. I stayed with her, cooking simple meals, helping with her paints when her hands steadied. We talked late into the nights, the hospital giving way to her bungalow, now with a new ramp I'd installed myself, one steady board at a time. "What happened that night?" she asked finally, her eyes searching mine over mugs of chamomile tea, I told her. "Not all at once. Truth like that needs room to breathe." The text, the call, and then haltingly Mom's confession. Lily listened, her face still as a canvas before the first stroke. When I finished, she reached for my hand, her grip warm and sure. "I knew, Em, about the accident. She told me in the hospital right after, whispered it while you were in the cafeteria. I forgave her then, but she never forgave herself." Shock rippled through me. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because it wasn't yours to carry." She smiled faintly, that old light flickering back. "You were already holding so much, for both of us." We cried then, together, the kind of tears that wash away years of unspoken weight. Betrayal stings deepest when it's wrapped in silence, but sharing it? That mends. Lily didn't hate Mom. She pitied her, saw the prison of guilt she'd built. But me, I couldn't pity yet. The hurt ran too fresh, too raw. "What do we do now?" I asked, my voice small. "We live," Lily said simply. "And we let her choose." That's when the plan took shape. Not revenge in the angry sense, the kind that burns everything down. No, this was justice, quiet and unyielding, the kind that forces you to look in the mirror. I started with a letter. Pages and pages written by lamplight, my pen scratching out the pain I'd buried. I described that 2 a.m. horror, the rain, the fall, her text glowing like an accusation. I poured out the confusion, the heartbreak of realizing her love had limits, twisted by shame. "You tried to let her go," I wrote, "but I couldn't, because family isn't about perfection. It's about choosing every day to hold on. I didn't send it alone." Lily added her words, gentle ones, about forgiveness waiting if Mom could reach for it. Then with her blessing, I shared it wider. Not to shame, but to heal. I posted excerpts anonymously on a support forum for families touched by accidents. Stories of guilt, resentment, the slow unraveling of bonds. How do you forgive when the one who hurt you is the one you love? The responses flooded in, survivors, parents, siblings, all echoing the same ache. One woman wrote, "Truth is the only way out. Share it, and the shadows lose their power." Emboldened, I took it further. A quiet call to our family pastor, the one who'd baptized us as kids. "Mom needs help," I said. Real help. Therapy, confession, something. He agreed, and together we arranged it. No ambush, no confrontation in the heat of anger. Just an invitation, coffee at the old diner, the one with the checkered floors and Mom's favorite pie. She came wary, her eyes shadowed like she'd aged a decade in days. We sat there, Lily and I on one side of the booth, Mom across, stirring her coffee endlessly. The air hummed with unsaid words. "Read this," I said softly, sliding the letter across. Her hands trembled as she unfolded it, her face paling with each line. When she reached the end, Lily's note, tears spilled over, silent and unstoppable. I didn't mean," she started, but her voice broke. Lily leaned forward then, her voice steady. "You did mean it, Mom, in that moment. But moments pass. Guilt doesn't have to define you." The pastor arrived then, as planned, his presence a gentle bridge. We talked for hours, raw, messy, hearts laid bare. Mom spoke of the nights she'd cried alone, the fear that admitting fault would shatter us all. I thought letting go of her, of the reminder, would free me. Her admission hung there, vulnerable, and for the first time, I saw her not as the betrayer, but as broken too. It wasn't easy. Forgiveness isn't a switch you flip. It's a path, uneven and long. But in that diner, with the scent of apple pie in the air, something shifted. Mom agreed to counseling, to facing the guilt head-on. And slowly, visits resumed. Not perfect, but real. Lily's laugh returned to our calls, tentative bridges rebuilt. As for me, the revenge wasn't in her pain, but in her freedom. By calling 911 that night, by choosing Lily over silence, I'd exposed the lie, not to destroy, but to rebuild. The closure came in quiet moments, pushing Lily's chair through a sun-dappled park, Mom trailing behind with a tentative smile, learning to walk beside us again. Music rises to a poignant swell, piano and strings weaving hope through the melancholy, then softens to a close. Looking back, that 2 a.m. horror wasn't the end, it was the beginning. Betrayal taught me that love isn't blind. It's brave. It sees the flaws, the guilt, the resentments, and chooses anyway to hold on when everything screams let go. If you're listening, carrying your own hidden hurts, ask yourself, who's worth the call at 2 a.m.? Who's worth the truth no matter how it stings? Because in the end, family isn't given, it's chosen. Every stormy night, every broken text. And in choosing, we find our way home. Thank you for sharing this piece of my heart. If this story touched you, like, subscribe, and share yours below. Until next time, hold on tight.